welcome back. It has been ages since I've done a new releases video and I've missed doing them. I had to really kind of cull through all the new releases since I did my last one because it's been like over a month, so I don't want to go back to like the beginning of August because it's old news at this point. So I've selected a few things that are newer releases and we're going to talk about those. So let's just dive straight into it. I'm going to start with the one that is on my eyes. It is obviously available now. It is from Juvia's place and it is the Nomad palette. And it is fall in a palette and I love it. It is quite neutral, leaning a little bit warmer on this side, but it's a different take on earth tones. Like, I love the orange and the yellow. This yellow has a bit of sparkle in it. It's just a well thought out palette and I'm so happy that I picked it up. This palette, gorgeous. I even love the packaging on it. Like, I just think it's stinking cute. I think it's beautiful. I love the color story. I love Juvia's Place palettes. Like, I love their eyeshadows. I love the consistency of the quality, how blendable they are, all of that. But sometimes, at least for me, the palettes, I just have a hard time coming up with different looks for them. And I think that just speaks to my own creativity. It's not necessarily a gripe for the company, but for me, I have a hard time when there's certain layouts of colors. Whereas with this one, they all work so well together that you really can't go wrong no matter what you do with it. So I love it. I recommend it. There we go. Let's move on. So one that I am quite excited about is the mini gold palette from Natasha Denona. I said that really weird. Natasha Denona. I do have the actual full-size gold palette, but in looking at this and looking at what comes in the full-sized, there's no overlap here. And in fact, with the green tones in this one, it really brings something to the original palette. So I think they're going to be really good companion pieces with each other, but that's not to say that you have to go out and buy the bigger palette in order to get maximum use out of this one. Again, sometimes with her 5-pan palettes, less so with the minis, but with the full-sized 5-pan palettes, I find that they're not really a cohesive unit. Like, I find that you still have to bring in other palettes to make them work, whereas with this one, I think you can make some really nice looks with this. I think you're a little bit limited in the fact that you have 5 eyeshadows to work with, but the color story is there, and this is a complete palette in and of its own. I think it's stinking beautiful, and I've already got my notifications on so that once it arrives, I will be buying that one. There's also releasing at the same time a duo highlighter, the Glow Gold palette. I think this is going to be too dark for my skin tone, or at least half of it is going to be too dark for my skin tone. So this one is going to be a pass for me, but I think it's beautiful. And if you have the right depth to your skin to pull this off, I think it's going to be phenomenal. I do have one of her blush and highlighter palettes, and the products are just beautiful, like just spot on powders. So I think this would be really nice as well. It's just not going to work for me. Now on the other end of the size spectrum, there is a palette that has recently released. It has, I believe, 30 shades in it. It is the latest release from Kathleen Lights and Colourpop. It has already been available, sold out, restocked. I'm not quite sure if they have any available at this point or not, but it is quite pretty. There are a ton of, there's a ton of variety in this palette. It just doesn't draw me in. Where a 5-pan palette can be a little bit limiting, to me a 30+ palette is overwhelming and I don't really know what to do with it. So while this is quite pretty, while I love Colourpop shadows, I'm not going to pick this one up because I know it's not something that I would reach for over and over. And I know it's one that once I did bring it out, I would look at it and be like, I don't know what to do with you. Because I am probably the most indecisive person on the face of the planet. So when I have multiple options for different color stories and different ways that I can go with the palette, I get a little stuck. So this one for me is a pass. Now, I have to say, like, aside from the makeup itself, I do wish that Colourpop would spread the wealth a little. I mean, this has got to be 5th, 6th, maybe more, 7th collab with Kathleen Lights. Like, they have done a ton of collabs with Kathleen Lights. On the one hand, I have respect for the fact that she continues to collaborate with a brand that has a low price point. I think that's great. On the other, Colourpop is now big enough that they could really make an impact on smaller influencers and just give people a chance. Their products kind of sell themselves, so it's not like it's a huge risk to collaborate with somebody who might not have the same name recognition that, say, Kathleen Lights has. So I'd like to see them spread it out a little bit. There are just so many people who are working so hard, whether it's here on YouTube, whether it's on Instagram, whatever the case may be, working on their skills, their creativity, pushing themselves. I would love to see brands recognize the effort, not so much the subscriber count. Two different things, really. Yes, you need effort in order to build your channel, your following, all that kind of thing, but I don't think that should be the sole deciding factor when it comes to collaborations. I think the passion, the effort, the growth, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I think the bottom line is that, you know, I'm tired of seeing the same collaborations with the same people over and over again, and Colourpop is fairly notorious for that. They find somebody to collaborate with, and then they just keep doing it. And while that's great for that particular influencer, there are literally thousands of other people that would die for that opportunity, and they are in a position that they can grant that opportunity, so I would like to see them do so. Okay, another large palette that's coming out is from Morphe, and it is the 35O Fierce by Nature Artistry palette. No. It looks like every other fucking palette that they've ever put out, with the exception of like 2 greens. The rest of it, like, you could just put this in front of me and I would think it was just the original 35O. Like, there's no creativity there to me. While some of those individual colors are quite pretty, it's too much of a good thing. And no, I'm not even remotely interested in this. If you are, it's going to be available September 17th. Power to you. I hope you love it. But for me, it's just a big old pass, because you could literally cut this in half and you would still be able to make the exact same looks, in my opinion. Okay, the last super large palette, 40 pans. Stirred the pot a little bit, and I kind of like it. It's the Wet n Wild one. That's kind of old news at this point, because it's been going around for about a week now at this point, but the 40th anniversary 40 palette will be coming to the Wet n Wild website, date unknown, but I'm assuming fairly soon. It's going to be $20. And this is the palette, in case you are unaware, this is the palette that Jimmy Chuck, aka James Charles, has got his like knickers in a twist over, going on and on about how he's going to sue them and this and that and the other thing because they stole his creativity and blah blah blah. Okay, couple points. One, his palette was not his palette. It was a collaboration with Morphe. It was Morphe's palette. If anybody's going to sue anybody, it should be Morphe. Secondly, it's a rainbow palette with some neutrals. Yeah, the layout is a little bit close, but it's a rainbow palette with some neutrals. Like, his creativity, he put the spectrum in a palette. He should be crediting refracted light. That was not necessarily his creativity. He's like, hey, how about we do Rouge-Gabiv? Thank you, elementary school, for teaching me that. I still remember Rouge-Gabiv. But, gun to head, which one would I buy? I'd buy the Wet n Wild. I'm actually quite curious about it. I'd like to see what the quality is like, all of that. I might buy it. We'll see. It's going to depend on the shipping costs. So stay tuned, I guess. I really don't need this palette in my collection. Like, I really, really don't. But if anybody grinds my gears, it's Jimmy Chuck, and I'd like to buy it just to stick it to him just a tiny little bit. Yeah, that may make me petty, but it is what it is. There are no end of eyeshadow palettes coming out. So this one is from Dior. It's going to join their Backstage line, and I don't know. I like the idea of it. Like, the color story doesn't put me off. Despite all appearances to the contrary, I am sort of leaning more towards neutrals lately. That's just sort of my shtick, something nice and easy. Well, okay, so let's be perfectly honest. Since I've come home from the hospital, I think I've worn makeup. This will be twice. So there's that. But I will be returning to work in a week, and this kind of color story speaks to me. However, I don't like the cream base, and that white thing on the bottom, I think it's a gloss, and there is no way in hell I am ever going to be trying to gloss my eyelids and heading out the door. To me, glossy eyelids are good for like an Instagram picture, and then that's about it, because they will not hold up. So I don't know, but that's what I think it is. So I like the idea of this. I wish those two were actual powders, and I wish that they were mattes so that they could sort of round out all the shimmers that are going on in here. So there's enough wrong with this that I wouldn't purchase it, but I like the idea of it. So I don't hate it, I'm just not gonna buy it. In looking at the screenshots that I have, there's really not much that I am going to buy, to be honest. Let's talk about the Balm. They've come out with two new eyeshadow palettes, and these are the Metal Vava Voom Cream Eyeshadow Palettes. One is Shift into Neutral, and the other is Shift into Overdrive. I'm not mad at... Which one is it? I don't even know what it is. I'm guessing it's the neutral one. The one on the bottom. I'm not mad at the color story. I think it's great for fall, winter. I don't want to buy a cream eyeshadow palette. I feel like it could dry out really quickly. I feel like it could crease. I haven't heard anything about these. They've just recently released, so I'm not surprised by that. I don't know, the whole idea of like a cream palette kind of turns me off, just because I think it's going to dry out really quickly, and it just seems like a bit of a liability. So if I hear people raving about it, maybe I'll pick up that neutral one, but I'm not even really on the fence. I'm just sort of like fence adjacent, just kind of standing beside it and being like, meh, grass is okay, but I'm pretty good where I'm at, that kind of thing. Holy crap, they're like all eyeshadow palettes. I think I have two that aren't. We may as well just keep trucking with the eyeshadow palettes, right? Let's keep doing that. Charlotte Tilbury is coming out with their newest holiday edition, the Starry Eyes to Hypnotize Instant Eye Palette. It will be limited edition. It will be $75 US. It's a pretty penny, but I do like the color story in here. I like that it's sort of grouped together. There's 4 sets of 3. I like the versatility that it offers. I like that there's a mix of shimmery shadows and mattes. I think it's very workable. I think it's very beautiful. I think it's very expensive. And I'm probably not going to buy it for that reason. Simply, I've been off work for a month and I don't make money when I'm off. So I don't have 75 US to be splurging on an eyeshadow palette with colors that I do have in my existing collection. But they are very pretty all set out in this palette. So I like it. If it manifested itself into my makeup room, I would be quite happy with that. However, probably not gonna buy it myself, although I do think it's pretty. Another palette that I don't know that I'm gonna put the money towards, but that I really want it, is part of the new Givenchy holiday collection, and it's the Red Lights palette. I don't know what it is. The red sparkly outer, the red eyeshadow, that sparkly gold. I just think it's beautiful. I don't know how practical, I gotta sneeze. Bless me. I don't know how practical that like pan layout is with the G's, but I'd be willing to work around that because it's beautiful. Unfortunately, it's 44 pounds, which translates to about 70 to 80 Canadian. That's a lot of coin for a 4-pan palette. but it is stinking beautiful. Likewise, the lipsticks that come with it, they're 26.5 pounds, so again, 45-50-ish, I'm guessing. But I love the two shades. I love the packaging, the little red ribbon. Like, I just think it's all very chic and beautiful, and I would just feel so nice having it in my hands, being able to see it. I just think it's beautiful. We'll see. Another one that I was initially really drawn into and then kind of took a beat, really looked at it and thought, I don't know that I'd get as much use out of you as I initially thought, is from Clinique, and it is their Cheek Pop palette. It is in like the shade Cool Down. It's $29.50 US, and it's pretty. Like, again, it sparkles. So the crow that dwells inside of my heart is like, yes, bitch, I need you. Except, I think I'd probably only use the shade on the right. The purple, I think it's going to be a little too cool toned for my skin tone. And then the other, I don't know if it's supposed to be a highlighter or not. I don't know. If it is, it might work. If it's not, I don't think it will. I think it'll be too light for me. I am drawn to the shade on the right, but I could buy it individually and then have less to store. It is beautiful though, it sparkles. Tarte. They're coming out with, there's two new palettes. So one is going to be their holiday palette. So it's not yet available. I don't know when it will be available. It's not bad. You know what? It's really not. Again, these are shades that I do have over and over again in my collection, but it's a holiday palette. If you were purchasing a gift for somebody who was just getting into makeup or who didn't have an extensive collection, I think this would be a really great option because it has warmer tones, cooler tones, a bunch of neutrals. Again, you have that mix of metallic finish and mattes. It comes with a brush. There's like a couple little, like an eyeliner and a mascara in there. I think it is a really well thought out palette. I just don't think that it pushes any sort of envelope. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I'm probably not going to purchase this because I don't need it. But I do think that as a gift item, this is a really good idea. The other palette they've come out with just makes me just want to yawn, to be honest. And it is the Tarte Treasures Collector's Set. And there's just not enough differentiation in the eyeshadows to really make me think that you can get a ton of looks out of it. It's just sort of like wah wah. It doesn't make an awful lot of sense to me. It's $50 US. I don't need to spend that kind of money on these shades because I have them. And I just feel like it's going to be bulky packaging. I don't know. I feel like it is because it's got like the two cheap products on both sides. It's just a big old pass for me. I'm not on board with that. So then, where does that leave us? Okay, then we have two more things to talk about. One is by Victoria Beckham, so she is just releasing her new line. And I'm quite surprised that the prices are not atrocious, because I remember when she was doing something, I don't know if it was a collaboration with Sephora, but like her mascara was like $55. I was like, I don't know who you think you are, but no. So these ones, the only thing I want to talk about in here are the eyeshadow palettes. They're $54 US, and for that you get 4 shades. I don't like mixed pans, so the top right actually speaks to me. It's so boring and dull. I know that. In the past, like a year ago, I would have been like, no, that's so boring. And now, I guess, I don't know, I'm just old and boring now. I don't know. I like it. I think it's very like user-friendly. It's one of those like eyeshadow palettes that you can just sort of slap on, not really have to think about it, and you're out the door. But I don't like mixed pans because as you use it, as you blend, it's all going to sort of bleed together, and then you just have a big hot mess on your hands. And I am enough of a hot mess. I don't need products to become so for me. So for that reason, no. If they were laid out differently, quite possibly I might even think about that one. Finally are the holiday collection items from Too Faced. I will not be purchasing a single thing from this. I am not interested in any of this. They did the gingerbread thing last year. Like, the gingerbread horse is dead. Stop stop beating it. Like, they've revived the palette, changed it just a tiny bit. I can only tell it changes when I see them side by side, to be honest. And now they're trying to like rebrand it as something completely new and revolutionary. No, it's not. It's boring. There's nothing in here. It's the same colors over and over again, just in different palettes. The only one that even looks remotely interesting to me is that circular palette on the top, but I don't want to store a circular palette. I have one, and it's enough of a pain in the ass. There should be no round edges on palettes because you can't stand them up. They're a pain in the ass. Yes, you can put them in a drawer. The problem is when I put stuff in a drawer, it's gone. I forget to look at it. I don't think about it. So none of this is intriguing to me. I know there's like a resoundingly negative new release. I don't really hate any of these things. I don't have like a visceral like reaction to any of them. They're just kind of, they're all sort of interchangeable with each other. A lot of them anyways. And I'm kind of tired of that. I think I've got to the point with my collection now that I need stuff to be new for me to really get interested in it. Not just like a new release, but like something that's bringing something different to the table. I don't want to just keep buying stuff for the sake of having the newest release, because it gets overwhelming, and then I have to store it, and then I'm decluttering, and then I feel wasteful, and it's a whole thing. So if it's negative, I apologize, but only kind of slightly, because it's my spending and I don't want to buy all this stuff. So there it is. All right. If you are interested in any of the things that I talked about today, if you are also not interested, as always, I would love to hear from you in the comments below what your feelings are on these new releases. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. Thank you for being patient with me. I am recovering well, but I am very tired. It is a whole process and an emotional thing, but I'm getting there. So thank you. I will see you guys in my next video, and until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.